Hello everyone, welcome to Talking Health with Dr. Laz, your favorite health program on television. Reaching you from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. My name is Dr. Laz Eze. Yes, on the program today we'll be discussing a very important topic that relates to many persons. It's a non-communicable disease. It's diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus is a very broad topic. We can't discuss every aspect of it just in one program. But there is an aspect that I think many of us will need to have more information about, the aspect that involves our lifestyle. You know, what lifestyle is more likely to predispose one to having diabetes, or that is more likely to protect someone from having diabetes. And even for those that already have the diabetes, what kind of lifestyle will make them respond better to treatment. So this is an issue we'll be talking today, and I have a health professional joining us from Texas in the United States. She is a pharmacist, a doctor of pharmacy. She got from University of Kentucky. Incidentally, we're at the University of Kentucky around the same period. You know, I was there 10 years ago and I left like 8 years ago. So, Dr. Ama Quansah, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Dr. Ama Quansah is a pharmacist and founder and CEO of NAQ Pharmacy Consulting in Texas, US. And she is a biochemist. You know, she actually studied biochemistry before going into pharmacy. And she's been doing a lot of work in terms of educating people with diabetes, hosting a lot of media programs. So we'll get to the conversation immediately after this break. I know Nana is very ready to get the talk rolling. So do stay with us. We'll be right back shortly. Welcome back to Talking Health with DrLaz, your favorite health program on television. We'll be discussing diabetes mellitus, like I mentioned, and the lifestyles that we need to adopt, lifestyle modifications, healthy lifestyle that will protect us from having diabetes. And even those that already have it, you did not commit any offense by having it. You know, so, but you can as well live a healthier life and also get your life ongoing. So Dr. Ama Quansah, the founder, CEO of NAQ Pharmacy Consulting in Texas, is with me on the program. And Nana, welcome back. And let's get this talk going.
Thank you.
So to an average person, let's begin from the basics of understanding what brings about diabetes, what malfunctions in the body before we begin to have diabetes. So insulin, which controls blood sugar, blood fat, and all that. Maybe you want to talk a bit more about it so that we provide a context for the remaining aspects of the conversation.
Sure, absolutely. So I guess I can start by explaining how insulin works. So basically, whenever we eat, the carbohydrates in the food is actually converted to sugar. So that is the glucose. So usually glucose has to go into the cells, the muscles, and the organs to give us energy. So there is a hormone that our body produces called insulin. So what insulin does is it actually manages and transports the glucose into the cell. So that's how we get our energy. So when someone has diabetes, so yeah, that's the diagram. So when someone has diabetes, their body is actually not being able to utilize that glucose or utilize the insulin that the body is producing. So that's what happens when especially when you have type 2 diabetes.
Okay, that's great. So
you want to also think about insulin as a gatekeeper. So basically, the insulin has to attach to the cells for the glucose to enter into the cells for energy as well.
Okay, that sounds great. So what happens in the case of diabetes is if insulin production has a problem, if it's not produced, right, or insulin is available and the receptors within the cell, is dysfunctional, not allowing it to do its job in terms of, breaking down glucose to energy, oxygen, and water that the body uses for the overall functions, right?
Exactly. You're correct. Yes.
Okay.
And I also believe that insulin is just not, I mean, diabetes is not just having a high blood sugar. It's more so also an inflammatory disease. So
Okay.
basically, the things that we eat and all that stuff actually messes with the gut lining. So that actually also causes something called inflammation. So it's not only you having a high blood sugar, there are so many things that causes your sugar to be high as well. It's not only insulin resistance. So inflammation can cause it. You can also have nutrition deficiencies that cause it, and something also called free radicals. So free radicals are basically they are molecules that damage the healthy cells that we have. So when that happens, you can also have high blood sugar as well. So sometimes a lot of people think that just because they have a high blood sugar means that they have diabetes, but it's not necessarily that. It can be so many reasons.
Okay, I think it's really very good that you made that point, that having high blood sugar is not exactly the same as having diabetes mellitus. So there is need for further investigations to kind of find out what exactly is causing that. So apart from doing a test for blood sugar, which is very common, people can do a screening, what form of investigations or tests could someone do to check out other probable causes of high blood sugar?
So like you had mentioned, you can do this. There's a whole lot. There's a C-peptide test that you can take. There's so much. You can also do that A1C, which is the most popular one. And some doctors also do the fasting blood sugar as well.
Okay, so that's really sound good. So let's go to the other aspect. How would one suspect that they have diabetes? Now speaking in form of clinical symptoms and signs, I know one of the most pronounced is nocturia. So one person urine several times at night, before the morning.
Yeah.
So, and of course, increased thirst. So one is very thirsty, passing a lot of urine. So speak to the other symptoms that could present for someone that is perhaps diabetic.
Yeah. So with diabetes, it's actually a very silent disease unless you start seeing the problems. So a
Right.
lot of people don't actually put urgency to it. So like he had mentioned, once you start seeing those problems, that's when people become alert. So some of the symptoms that people experience is increased frequent urination. So that's one of it. And some people also have thirst, a lot of excessive thirst. And some people have dizziness as well. And then also sometimes whenever someone has infections, it takes a long time for it to heal. So when you start having all these symptoms, that's when you want to be aware that something else is going on in your body. So that's when you want to be cognizant of it and make sure that you let your doctor know. Some people have excessive tiredness. So it's actually called diabetes fatigue. And usually when that happens, your rest cannot even help with it. You have to basically do a whole lot for you to have that energy back. So these are some of the symptoms briefly that you can experience when you are having a high blood sugar.
Right. So they usually say that in the case of diabetes, the body is suffering in the midst of plenty. So where there's a lot
Yes.
of glucose in the body, but it's not really making use of it and leading to, and like you rightly mentioned, it can be silent, which means a lot of times you may actually start without it showing any symptom. And so for some
Yeah.
persons,
So yeah, exactly.
for
So
some
because
persons, they may
glucose
actually
is
have a
not getting
complication
into the
before they
cell.
get to take necessary actions. Okay, so we're going to take another break. And when we return, we're going to be talking more around the lifestyle practices, the healthy practices that we need to imbibe, things we need to eat, the risk factors for diabetes, and the actions we need to take when we do suspect we have diabetes. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. I've been talking with Dr. Ama Quansah. Welcome back to Talking Health with Dr. Laz, your favorite health program on television. I've been talking to Dr. Ama Quansah, joined me from Texas, United States. She's the founder and chief executive officer of NAQ Pharmacy Consulting. Nana, you're from Ghana, so we're going to come to that aspect in the course of the program. Interestingly, you're the first Ghanaian I'm having on this program, So, but definitely not my first guest from the US. So in terms of lifestyle from the African context, so what are the things you want anybody watching this program to, those practices that we need to imbibe that will make it less likely for us to have diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, beginning from different spectrum of what we need to do?
Yeah. So, first of all, we all have to be proactive in our thinking towards healthy lifestyle, right? So once we realize that something is not going right, especially if we've done it for a long period of time, we have to realize that we need to do something different, right? So a lot of people feel like just taking the medications will help them. But medications, even though they are indeed beneficial, you have to realize that they only treat the symptoms. So there is an underlying cause, there's a root cause that has to be figured out. So the first thing that, we all know is nutrition. Nutrition plays a very, very big role when it comes to diabetes management. So obviously we all know about the green leafy vegetables, right? So why are all those good? So they contain antioxidants, they contain vitamins, they contain nutrients that our body actually needs. So those are some things that we have to be more intentional about and be cognizant of, actually make sure that we incorporate all that in our daily lives. So those go from your spinach, your broccoli, your lettuce. These are things that you want to eat as well. And when it comes to diabetes, you also want to focus on fiber-rich carbs. So we all know that carbs contain your fiber, starch, and your sugar. So fiber is actually the secret weapon when it comes to managing your diabetes. So that's something that we have to make sure that number one is on our plate. We have to make sure that is part of our plate. So fiber is actually good for diabetes management because our bodies actually take a while to absorb it. So whenever we eat, your glucose does not spike up. So that's something that we have to make sure that we put on our plate. So those are your carrots, your lettuce, your cauliflower, your broccoli. Those are really good fiber carbs that we have to incorporate in our diet as well.
Okay. So are there some local foods in Africa that, just like you've mentioned, broccoli, carrot, and all that, are there some, say, like in Ghana, that you want to mention their specific local names that, to make any of them watching this identify it more?
Yeah, so not only even the veggies as well. So when it comes to proteins, you want to sort for the omega-3 proteins because that help with inflammation as well. So those are your sardines, your mackerel, your I don't know the name in Ghana, but it's called anchovies as well. Those
So
are really
mackerel
good for inflammation. So those are protein-rich foods that you can eat as well to help with glucose management. And then we have our spinach. We call it in contemporary in Ghana. That's igusi in Nigeria as well. So these are things that you want to incorporate in your diet.
We have ewedu,
and I know that a lot of people also do the restrictive diet. I don't believe in that because I believe that once you have a restrictive diet, you're not able to have lasting solutions. You will probably give up later on. So you want to sort for changes that will have a lasting impact in your life. So always think about what you can add to your food instead of what you can eliminate. So when it comes to carbs, you want to pair it up with your proteins and then pair it up with healthy fat. And when I talk about healthy fat, those are your avocados, and we call it pear in Ghana. So I'm pretty sure it's the same thing in Nigeria as well.
Exactly.
You want to pair
Avocado
your
pear.
carbohydrates with proteins and healthy fat.
All right. So you've talked a lot about nutrition, which is really very important in primary prevention and even management of cases of diabetes, in addition to whatever medication one must have been given. But what's the role of exercise? Is there a role that exercise plays?
Yeah, that's right. So it's not, I know that a lot of people only think about nutrition, but there's so many things that you can do, which is exercise as well. So when I talk about exercise, I'm not talking about the high intensity exercise. It's just incorporating some kind of movement into our lives. So the human body is meant to be moved. We are not meant to just sit still, because the more we incorporate movement, our muscles are able to absorb that glucose and be able to give us energy. So you want to be able to do, even if it's like simple exercise, like 30 minutes each day, but it just has to be consistent. So that's walking. You can just do a brisk walking. You can go swimming, dancing. These are little things that you want to do, not necessarily running a marathon, right? So you want to
Right.
pick exercises that you can follow and you can enjoy. So these are some of the things that you want to do. And also, when a lot of people think that exercise are supposed to lower blood sugar, but it has an impact on blood sugar depending on the type, the intensity, and the duration. So not all exercises actually decrease your blood sugar. So that's why it's really important to check your sugar before you exercise, and then after you exercise, you get done with it. So you'll be able to know what type of exercise that you have to do for you as an individual, because not all of it will lower your blood sugar. Some can actually increase, especially the strenuous exercises.
Right. Yes, it's good you made that point that exercise is not until someone registers in a gym, and doing highly intensive. It's just physical activity that could just entail using the staircase instead of using a lift, or taking some walk, parking certain distance before your office so that you could walk for some time before you get to the place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, using the stairs instead of elevators, even watching TV, you can do some stretching and some resistance exercises while you're watching TV. During commercials, you can get up and walk in your living room. All these stuff help, even with the diabetes fatigue that people experience. Yeah.
Yes, diabetes is a non-communicable disease, and there is some correlation between it and obesity. There is also a correlation between it and excessive sugar consumption. A lot of studies have
Yes.
been able to establish sugar-sweetened beverages, excessive consumption of it, to have direct correlation with type 2 diabetes and all that. In some countries, there have been
Absolutely.
increased taxation. You remember the Bloomberg taxes in New York City. When he was the mayor. South Africa have also done some policies that impose certain levies in sugar-sweetened beverages. So looking at the African continent, Nigeria, for instance, is the fourth largest country in consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages in the world. And we are kind of having a mix of triple pandemic, actually, infectious disease, epidemic, sorry for using the word pandemic. COVID-19 had made all of us gotten used to the pandemic. So triple epidemic of infectious disease on one hand, then the non-communicable diseases on the other hand, with rising cases of childhood obesity and all of that, and even the road traffic injuries. So, but focusing on these NCDs, what would be your thoughts and perhaps your recommendation from the policy aspect on how we could control, especially for the middle upper class folks, in terms of control of consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages in Africa?
Yeah. So I know a lot of people also think that eating a lot of sugar actually directly causes diabetes, but it's not entirely true. Excess sugar actually causes what is called inflammation. And that's what actually, once we eat all that and processed food and refined sugar, that actually messes with the lining of our gut. So our lining, when the lining gets disrupted, you end up not having any source of filtration going on. So everything passes through your gut. And that's when you have that inflammation. In terms of the lifestyle, I think the lifestyle that we are living, it's busy. Everybody wants to grab that, fast food and all that stuff. It's okay to eat it, but do not make it something that you want to do every day. Maybe once a week or something, that's okay. But if you consistently are eating processed food and refined sugar, it will cause inflammation, which will lead to insulin resistance or even diabetes. So I recommend people try to do meal planning a bit, because meal planning will help you actually get healthy food, and actually also help you make sure that you are not grabbing, the processed food and fast food on your way to work and all that stuff. So you actually have planned the food that you eat during the week. In terms of smoothies and things of that
So
nature,
by
I
meal
believe
planning,
that you
are
can
you
actually do it
recommending
at
the use
home.
of
If you want the
food
smoothies,
table?
make sure you don't do the commercial ones, because they add a lot of added sugar to it and preservatives. So if you're sorting for smoothies as a quick food or something on your way to work, you want to be able to do that at home, because actually you know how much fruit you're putting in the smoothie and how much, like, the food that you're putting in. So you'll be able to adjust accordingly as well. So I think that's the advice that I have for people. I know sometimes it's easier said than done because we
Right.
are all busy, but you have to be intentional about your health as well.
All right. Nana, thank you very much for those thoughts. The aspects of meal planning, there are some folks that do a timetable for food and they paste it on the wall of the kitchen, that will guide them on what to consume at different times. Okay,
Yes,
so just before we
absolutely.
sign out, I think we have less than 2 minutes to round up. I just want to quickly to mention
Okay.
the need for at least, let me now use the African context, at least once in a year for people to go general medical checkup, check your blood sugar,
Yeah.
check other indices in the body, your lipid profile, that's the fat profile in the system. And
Yeah.
diabetes is a
Yeah.
systemic health condition that can present with a lot of complications. And that might include, it can have diabetic foots, you have an ulcer that is not going despite treatment and all that. It can actually damage the
Yeah.
kidneys. And when it damages the kidney, it can also have hypertension as a complication. Diabetes can damage the
Mm-hmm.
eyes and lead to blindness. So it can also, cause the heart disease and all that. So it's something that the management is multidisciplinary, and now you've mentioned a lot about nutrition. So you need a
Yeah.
nutritionist.
And
You're right. So
I believe that it's not, I know when we think about it, we think more so on the nutrition and the movement or exercise, but stress and sleep also take part in managing your sugar. You have
right.
to make sure you sleep at least 10 to hours a night. I know 9 hours is a bit too much, but at least 7 hours. When it
Okay.
comes to stress, it's not just the mental and emotional component of it. You have to make sure that, there are underlying infections and stuff that actually also cause stress. So
All
you
right.
have to have
So
techniques in
Nana,
place to help
sorry I'm cutting you. We're
decrease the
really
stress that
out
we
of
are all
time.
going through. And, you also have to decrease your exposure to
Nan-
toxins.
Dr.
Because
Nana, sorry
sometimes,
I'm cutting you. We are really out of time. I say we're out of time, please. But I get your point, the importance of rest and sleep, because stress can actually increase our stress hormones, some of which also alters the management of glucose and other stuff in the body. I really thank you for making us early is making out time to be on the program, based on the time difference.
no
It's
problem.
really a busy period for you right there in Texas. Dr. Nana Ama Quansah is a Ghanaian and also a pharmacist in the United States, doctor of pharmacy, and also the founder and CEO of NAQ Pharmacy Consulting. And she also does this stuff on YouTube. I think you call it Diabetes with Dr. Nana. So emphasizing on healthy lifestyle modifications and all that. So thanks for being on Talking Health with Dr. Laz.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. So, and to you, our viewers, thank you very much for being on the program today. We hope you learned a lot. And like I said at the beginning, just one show is not enough to discuss everything about diabetes. But one thing you must take away is that it's preventable. Lifestyle modification could help to prevent it. Even the treatment is not just about drugs. There are so many other aspects to it. And also, early diagnosis is very key. So do regular checkup and seek the advice of healthcare professionals when you need one, not just your neighbors that don't have any background in health. So thank you. My name is Dr. Laz Eze. See you same station, same time next week. Bye for now.